plane you see hanging above me was built by a good friend of mine in Waukegan, Illinois. And he was a automotive slash aircraft mechanic and inventor and very, very hobby-minded person with airplanes and cars and a lot of other things. Unfortunately, about 15 years ago, his wife became ill and she was bedridden. And he had to have something to work on, and he put together, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, an internal intercom system so he could work down in his garage and still hear his wife when she was resting. And through thumbing through some old magazines, he ran across in 1935 Mechanics Illustrated. And it had an article in there about these airplanes that are behind me. There was an article put in 1930s that the people that couldn't fight the war, that were in between World War I and World War II, they had articles about airplanes and all sorts of things they could build. Well, right after the war started in World War II, this model came up in the Mechanics Illustrated in depth, and actually for 15 cents, if you sent it in, they would send you a complete set of plans. Well, he started tracking down, of course, on the internet, which made it very simple for him, but I'm sure a few weeks to find it. Got a set of plans for this Hedge-Hopper. Now, the reason they called it a Hedge-Hopper is because it was the plans for this particular airplane was intended for somebody to use to take out in the field and just play around with. And if they went down a small hill and they were very light, they could pull the stick back and actually fly a little bit, but not very far. Well, he decided that he was going to build one of these and started. And I believe it was almost a year and a half of him doing this. And again, he's using very, very old plans. Now, I'm sure there was some things missing, and did a lot of research. And this airplane was intended to be flown by a pilot that weighed no more than 65 pounds. And what they did was, people that were not working in between seasons, that were not in the military, had to have something to do. So they heard about it, and people started building them. Now the problem was that the pilot limit, not many pilots weigh 68 pounds or less. And the guy that actually built this said he had talked to several people who had tried to build it. And when they went to fly it, they said, oh, it's no problem, we don't weigh that much, and it wouldn't take off, but they just taxi around. Well, he decided that he, in fact, wanted to dig at it even more. And he found somebody who actually built one, and a pilot that was 68 pounds flew it. And he built it completely up from scratch with nothing, and put the engine in himself, and used all the plans he had, and checking with people that had built it before. He did it as closely as he possibly could. And he was very interested why they called it a Hedge-Hopper. And it was called a Hedge-Hopper because the first person that actually flew one was in a farm field, and there was a hedge, and she pulled a stick back fast enough to the airplane to raise over the hedge and then come back down again and land. And they were so happy that they started calling him a Hedge-Hopper. So after many years of construction out in his garage, he got it all set, all done, and he decided to taxi it around. He taxied it around the driveway, and it moved along pretty well. And unfortunately, the one thing that was lacking on it was brakes. And the story he told me was he was taxiing it back towards the garage, and he hit a chuck hole or something, and the thing kind of moved in a different direction, and the propeller caught this edge of the door, and the propeller exploded into about 40 pieces. We have the propeller sitting in our display cabinet. He had to make a new propeller, and after that, he didn't do it. Now, to go back, just one more little story to go along with this. This is the gentleman who actually designed and built the first helicopter that would, as a model, fly for young kids. He took it to shows in I believe the early 50s, 60s. And he took this out and actually flew this helicopter that was a model with a Cox engine in it, and people were absolutely stunned. And he was the first one to ever do that. And that's my friend. And we we have a great sentimental value for it. His wife unfortunately passed away a few years later, and I haven't talked to him in a number of years, but it always, it's been sitting in our other building for quite a number of years. And this last winter, my grandson, my son, and myself, we worked it all out, and we got it pulled up and put on cables so we could display it here. And it's another part of our museum, just a little part of history. And I hope you'll have come someday, you can come and see it. Have a great day.